You know it's bad when the introverts are out here marching.
You understand me. Good morning, my beautiful and lovely friends. I'm just heading out to exercise my First Amendment right. I'm gonna go check out the hands-off protests. It's a peaceful protest in all 50 states. There was one in Vegas and there was one in Salt Lake City I was thinking about going to, but there's one in St. George. So I'm gonna go check it out, see what it's all about. I've never been to a protest before, so I'm gonna go pop my protest cherry and just see what it's all about. I have no idea what to expect. I kind of want to bring a megaphone. I think it would be fun to sing a song, like have people sing together and keep it a very peaceful protest. So I'm gonna bring that energy with me into this whole thing. I don't really know what to expect. Of course, the St. George protest is going to be a little different than the Salt Lake City or Vegas ones. I've got my basic Utah bitch hat on. We are good to go. We are representing. So yes, peaceful protest, standing up for our country, for our rights, standing up for due process and following our Constitution and all the lovely things that make us American. I don't know about you, but I love living in a democracy and I would love to keep it that way. And those of you who are about to post, it's a constitutional republic. Now I'm going to introduce you to this little thing called a thesaurus. And a thesaurus says that republic and democracy are synonyms. See, it's the same thing. A constitutional republic is a form of democracy. We do not live in a direct democracy, but our constitutional republic is a form of democracy. So therefore, I call it a democracy, like a blanket statement. The antithesis, the antonym of constitutional republic or democracy is authoritarianism, which is what we do not want. So that is why we are standing up today for our country and for our freedoms and for our Constitution and for our questionable hat choices. Do we hat or do we no hat? That is the question. I've seen a bunch of videos online, like the New York protest already happened.
This is what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. Time to fight. How can people unite? It's time to fight. Stand up like that. Free speech rights are under attack. What do we do? Stand up like that. Workers' rights are under attack. What do we do? Stand up like that.
And then I also saw some footage from the protest in Portland, Oregon.
Are you ready to stand up? Do you believe that the power of the people is more important and stronger than the people in power?
So proud of all the Americans who made it to a protest today to stand up for our country. There were protests in all 50 states. Here's one more showing the turnout in Chicago. This is insane. Now, I can't imagine going to a protest in a big city. It sounds all very scary for me, so I'm glad I'm going to a smaller one here in St. George for my first time just to check it out. But I've never protested before, and that says something. Like, there has to be something really wrong with our country right now if I am getting involved in politics whatsoever. I've always just been very much of the mind that I don't necessarily love politicians or politics. I think it's all sort of corrupt and icky, and it all serves a purpose at times. But this is different. This is something different. This is the first time in American history we've actually had a dismantling of our government from the inside.
More on that later in the video.
And I know I'm going to lose a lot of viewers on my channel because of the stance I'm taking, but quite honestly, our democracy and our freedoms are more important to me than my viewership. And we need to wake up and protest. I've been calling my senators every couple days. This week, there's a SAVE Act bill coming up that would make it extremely hard for a lot of American women to vote. They're now saying you need your driver's license and your birth certificate to match in order to vote. So this definitely affects married women who have changed their last name. Otherwise, you need a passport, which is a couple $100s. So call your representatives, tell them to vote no on the SAVE Act. We do not want to make it harder for Americans to vote and those who cannot afford to get a passport. They're doing this under the guise of making sure that illegal immigrants don't vote, which they already don't have the right to do. So they're creating a problem that doesn't exist and then coming up with a solution, which is the SAVE Act. And we know Project 2025 wants the man of the household to vote for the whole family. So this is their sneaky deaky way of doing that. So Call your representatives, tell them to vote no on the SAVE Act. Show up at protests, post on Facebook, Instagram about what's happening. I have stopped shopping at Target because they no longer comply with DEI policies against discrimination of people with disabilities, of different backgrounds or skin colors, or sexual orientation, or just simply having different body parts. And I've continued to shop exclusively with Costco because they aren't going along with getting rid of DEI, thankfully, stating their commitment to respect and inclusion is appropriate and necessary. So, not only using my voice to protest, but voting with my dollar as well. I've also gotten rid of my Audible and Amazon Prime accounts because I do not want to support billionaires who support the Trump administration.
And if I go car shopping anytime in the near future, I certainly will not be buying a Tesla.
And for other items, I'm making an effort to shop locally instead of on Amazon. If you have any other ideas of what we can be doing to make a difference, please let me know down in the comments below. I want to do as much as I can. I want to spread the word. I feel like this is so important to talk about. I've never felt like it was important to talk about politics before until now. Okay, so back to the hands-off protests. Where else did I see a few of them? The Boston one already happened.
Thousands of people gathered on Boston Common and marched to City Hall Plaza today as part of a nationwide so-called hands-off protest. It was a demonstration against several controversial policies being carried out by the Trump administration.
Hands up! Our democracy, hands up!
With loud voices, thousands gathered in Boston. Organizers say they are here to speak out against President Donald Trump and billionaire Elon Musk and their agenda to gut essential services. They are here to preserve democracy.
It's been really inspiring seeing so many people show up and stand up for our democracy. Can you handle me calling it a democracy? A democracy.
They are here to preserve democracy.
By the way, democracy has nothing to do with Democrat. Constitutional republic has nothing to do with being a Republican. So if you call our country a democracy, it does not therefore mean you're a Democrat. The more you know. But anyway, if you want more information on that, refer to Webster's Dictionary. Anyway, okay. Let's do this. All right, I drove past and I saw a bunch of people in the park, so I'm assuming that's where we're headed. Had to park a little ways away and walk, but you know, all good. There's some really pretty stuff to see along the way. Look at these absolutely gorgeous flowers. Good job. Good job. All right, St. George. St. George is showing up for the cause. Hands off 2025. So this is a hands-off protest. So I saw a lot of signs saying hands off our national parks. They're opening up our national parks, forests, and monuments to drilling and logging. They're also planning on selling public lands to private corporations. So in short, they are trying to privatize our public lands so they can buy them up and profit off of them. They're also firing people who are in charge of making sure our water is clean, that our lands are protected, and that certain animal populations don't go extinct. So they're trying to go around these regulations by firing people, as well as opening up this land so they can drill baby drill wherever the hell they want in our country. I believe that our public lands and our national forests are far more important than capitalism. So a lot of people are concerned about the national parks, especially here in Utah. Zion National Park is one of the more beautiful places I've ever seen in my life. So I'm very passionate about clean drinking water. I'm very passionate about preserving our national parks and state parks. And just because there are some precious minerals underneath these parks does not mean that we should be drilling them. That is a personal opinion. You might have a different opinion, but a lot of people agree that there is value in our national parks that's worth more than money, and they should keep their hands off of our public lands. Now, opening some land up to forestation, great. Take the chainsaw of bureaucracy to some of our forests, sure. But the way they're going about it is not great. Opening up so much land to be able to do whatever they want with, not great. Alienating and making enemies out of countries that have been our allies for the last century, including Canada, Europe, Australia, the UK. The tariffs thing is a whole other subject. The saying we're going to make Canada our 51st state and the taking over Greenland is a different subject, but also hands off Canada. hands off Greenland. What I don't like about the Trump administration is their only value is capital and the minerals and resources that Elon Musk can have access to build his rocket ships. They don't care about our friends and neighbors and allies that we've had for the last century. They don't care about our precious lands that we get to enjoy, that we've preserved and placed value in preserving. And they don't care about the Americans they hurt while crashing the stock market and the economy purposefully, so then billionaires can come in and buy everything up, privatize our public systems that they are purposefully demolishing from the inside, so when they no longer work, they can privatize them and make more billions off of our suffering. They're purposefully crashing an imperfect but already working system, so then they can come in and save it and buy it up and own everything. This is called an oligarchy. An oligarchy is a form of government in which power rests with a small number of people. These people may or may not be distinguished by one or several characteristics such as fame, wealth, corporate, religious, political, or military control. It is anti-American, and it is why we stand here with our signs today. We as American people need to stand up for what we hold value in. Yes, we do want to bring more jobs to America. Yes, we can open some lands up to forestation, but we do not want to alienate and piss off all of our allies in the meantime. That is not what's best for the American people or for our friends, neighbors, and allies. We don't want to pollute our waters. We want to have those people in place who are protecting our water supply, who are protecting our air quality, who are protecting our lands. And they have fired 17 attorneys generals. This is not a common thing for a president to fire 17 attorneys generals. And those generals just so happen to be the ones who are holding Elon Musk accountable. Several federal agencies that were investigating Elon Musk's companies have been the early targets of the Trump administration firing spree and of Musk's Doge. They're basically firing people who are holding them accountable for their companies. You see, Tesla and SpaceX have received at least $38 billion in government contracts, loans, and subsidies. And since this is government funding, there are also government regulations, which Elon Musk does not wish to follow. Therefore, the firings of the attorneys generals. Now, I'm going to quickly go through the inspectors generals that were fired because it's very interesting. Please bear with me. Because Trump did not fire them because of waste, fraud, and abuse or to trim the fat. He fired them to protect Elon Musk from being held accountable for his shady business dealings. Okay, let's start. Number 1, Department of Labor, the DOL, which oversees the National Labor Relations Board, the Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs, and the Equal Employment Opportunities Commission, had over a dozen open investigations into Tesla and SpaceX regarding alleged unfair labor practices, safety violations, and discriminatory work practices. NLRB filed a complaint against SpaceX after 8 employees said they were fired in retaliation for speaking critically of Musk. SpaceX sued the NLRB in response. OFCCP was conducting an audit of potential workplace discrimination at Tesla. Why would they want to get rid of DEI, you ask? So Elon can treat his employees however the hell he wishes. So the Department of Labor Inspector General was unlawfully fired by Trump during his midnight purge of Inspector Generals on January 24th. Trump fired the chair of the NLRB and has effectively shut down NLRB's ability to rule on cases. Trump gutted OFCCP via an executive order on January 21st before their investigation's findings could be made public. Trump fired 2 of the 3 Democratic commissioners on the EEOC. That is a lot of acronyms. Okay, so the Department of Labor Inspector General was fired by Trump, the one holding Elon Musk accountable for his companies. Next is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, CFPB. Consumers have submitted over 300 complaints about Elon Musk's Tesla to the FCPB. 66 of these complaints were submitted in the last year. Trump fired Director Rohit Chopra, I wish I knew how to pronounce that name, Rohit Chopra, and installed Project 2025 architect Russ Vaught as the Bureau's acting director. CFPB's Washington headquarters has been closed, and staff and contractors have been told that they cannot perform any work tasks. So yeah, there goes Trump firing more people, holding Elon Musk accountable. What do you know? Third is the U.S. Agency for International Development, called USAID. The USAID Inspectors General initiated a probe into Starlink satellite terminals provided to the government of Ukraine. USAID has been shuttered after Musk's Doge took a wrecking ball to the agency. And guess what? The USAID Inspector General was fired days after publishing a report critical of the Trump administration's dismantling of the agency. Number 4, the Department of Transportation, the DOT. DOT, which oversees the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, had several open investigations into Tesla. FAA had recently ordered SpaceX to carry out a formal investigation of the loss of a Starship vehicle during a test flight, and previously ordered over $630,000 in civil penalties against SpaceX. And what do you know? The Department of Transportation Inspectors General was fired by Trump. The FAA administrator resigned effective January 20th following pressure from Musk. Next, we have the Department of Agriculture, the USDA. The USDA's Inspector General launched a probe into Elon Musk's Neuralink in 2022 for potential violations of the Animal Welfare Act. As of January, the investigation was ongoing. And then guess what happened next? The USDA Inspector General, a 22-year veteran of the agency, was fired by Trump and later escorted out of her office by security guards. Next up, we have the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA. EPA regulators have settled multiple lawsuits with Tesla over violations of the Clean Air Act and hazardous waste laws at the company's automotive manufacturing plant in Fremont, California. Was that EPA Inspectors General fired by Trump? Yep, they were. Sure were. So I guess if you're an Inspector General and you try and hold Elon Musk accountable for his illegal and unethical business practices, you will get fired by Trump. Next is the Federal Election Commission. The FEC is set to rule on a number of complaints filed during the 2024 election cycle, including complaints pertaining to Musk's American PAC. The Trump administration unlawfully removed FEC chairwoman Ellen Weintraub from her post. Next is the Department of Interior. DOI oversees the Fish and Wildlife Service, which monitors the federal lands near SpaceX's launch site in Texas for any damage to threatened species habitats. Musk has repeatedly clashed with the FWS, calling their review process quote, unacceptable. And of course, the DOI Inspector General was fired by Trump. There's only 4 more, bear with me. The Department of Defense. The DoD had concerns that SpaceX had repeatedly failed to comply with federal reporting protocols aimed at protecting state secrets, including by not providing some details of Musk's meetings with foreign leaders. China. Excuse me. It was definitely China he was talking to. They have reportedly triggered federal reviews by DoD's Office of Inspector General and Air Force and the Pentagon's Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence and Security. By the way, I'll leave a link to this down below. There's hyperlinks in the actual files so you can check the resources on all of this information. The Air Force also recently denied Musk's high-level security access, citing potential security risks associated with the billionaire. The Department of Defense Inspector General was fired by Donald Trump. And isn't it interesting that just recently, the people who are supposed to keep our country safe are texting war plans to each other? This administration is a joke. Next, the Department of Justice, the DOJ, filed a lawsuit in 2023 against SpaceX for allegedly discriminating against people seeking asylum and refugees in hiring. DOJ also opened investigations into whether Tesla had been candid in describing the features of its vehicles. And they actually did not fire this Inspectors General for now, but the Trump administration has taken several actions to gut the DOJ, including firing top leadership and prosecutors. Discriminating against refugees and people seeking asylum? Not Elon Musk and Donald Trump. They would never. Oh, they actually sent Venezuelans legally seeking asylum in America to a mega prison in El Salvador, calling them gang members. Yeah, they're sending innocent people to a mega prison in El Salvador. They admitted it in court that they accidentally sent an innocent man, and now they're saying they can't get him back. That'll be for another video, but anyway. Okay, we have 2 more. Securities and Exchange Commission. The SEC sued X in January 2025, alleging Musk misled shareholders about his Twitter stock purchases in 2022 and ordering Musk to pay the federal government as much as $150 million. Musk called the agency a, quote, total broken organization. In response to the lawsuit, Trump vowed to fire the SEC chair, Gary Gensler, on day 1. Gensler stepped down before Trump could fire him, leaving a Republican majority in the SEC. And then finally, the Office of Government Ethics, OGE. Days after members of Congress requested that OGE investigate Mr. Musk's conflicts of interest, given his status as a special government employee and his extensive business holdings that receive billions of dollars in federal government contracts and subsidies, the director of OGE was fired by Trump. Okay, and get this. These attorneys generals are also holding Trump accountable, most notably Michael Atkinson, who was dismissed after he proceeded on a whistleblower complaint about Trump's Ukraine call with Russia, which led to his first impeachment. So either Elon Musk is trimming the fat and finding fraud and corruption, or they're just firing everyone who's holding Elon Musk and Donald Trump accountable and weakening our government systems, firing scientists and people who protect our water, our lands, our health care, our disease prevention. Yeah, they're not trimming the fat, people. It's very obvious, and they're not even hiding it anymore. They're very blatantly doing this. Elon Musk and Donald Trump are not helping Americans. They're helping themselves, their companies, and their capital. That's what they care about. So that's why we're here today, protesting and standing up for our democracy. I think it's worth standing up for. It's pretty peaceful over here. It's actually a really nice vibe. Like, everybody's just chatting, supporting each other. Is really nice. So I noticed a lot of protesters holding signs saying hands off of our Social Security, our Medicaid, hands off our veterans' well-earned VA benefits, hands off Medicaid, and hands off our bodies. Did you know that recently a woman was arrested for having a miscarriage? If I were to have a miscarriage and I would need help getting rid of the dead fetus inside of my body, and a doctor would be afraid to help surgically remove that dead fetus because they're afraid of going to prison, that is just absolutely wrong. About 10 to 20% of known pregnancies end in miscarriage. And that's just the known number because people don't typically report miscarriages. So if there is a dead fetus inside of your body and you can't naturally expel it, you could die from sepsis. This is absolutely criminal that a woman would not have access to healthcare. It's absolutely criminal. And that's why people are saying hands off my body. Women should be able to get healthcare, and doctors should not be afraid of going to prison for helping women get healthcare. It is asinine. A 24-year-old woman in Georgia was arrested last month after she lost her pregnancy for discarding the miscarriage. What kind of Handmaid's Tale bullshit is happening here? Absolutely not. She had a miscarriage and she was arrested. Not to mention, programs like Planned Parenthood are how I had access to health care when I was in college and most of my early adulthood. They were able to give me my annual exams. These are important things for women to have access to
For reproductive health and bodily autonomy.
Also, people want hands off of schools and books. They're actually trying to remove certain books from schools and libraries. They're trying to whitewash our history. For example, they're removing women and Black people from websites who served in our military. They're completely wanting to whitewash our history. And they also want to control who people sleep with and how they identify. It's disgusting. If you care so much about what other people's genitals are and what they do with those genitals, you got an issue, man. You got an issue. You have a problem. If you don't want to date someone of the same sex because of your religion, that is your choice. That's great. But you don't get to enforce that on everyone else. The Trump administration is actually trying to reverse the separation of church and state. They want to bring religion back into schools. It's absolutely inappropriate and un-American. If you care so much about who people love that you want the government to regulate it, you have an issue. Another tidbit about Elon Musk is he has multiple children with multiple women, and when he did IVF with them, he specifically wanted boys. So he has a transgender daughter who was a boy and became a girl, and he's very butthurt about it. So there's a lot of focus on hate towards trans people in this Trump administration, and it's no secret as to why.
These policies are not to protect the American people. These policies are about retribution and revenge for Elon Musk and Donald Trump.
And his daughter even said that he's not mad because she's trans. He's mad because she was an investment and he invested in a son, and he's upset that he did not get what he paid for. It's just sickening
And dehumanizing.
And they say they don't want trans people in women's bathrooms to protect women. Well, what about when Donald Trump was on Howard Stern bragging about walking in on pageant queens changing in their dressing room? Why is it okay for Donald Trump to walk into people's dressing rooms, but you don't want trans people walking into a women's bathroom? The hypocrisy is astounding. They don't give a shit about women. 23 women have come forward saying Trump was sexually inappropriate with them, and he was found civilly liable for sexual assault. And then when he denied that, he had to pay millions of dollars to E. Jean Carroll. Elon Musk hates transgender people, and they do not care about women. More on that in a different video. But the folks here want people to have the right to love and marry whoever they want. It's not hurting anybody. It's frankly none of your business and should not be controlled by the government. So hands off of our bodies, hands off of our schools, our books, our minorities, our national parks, our civil rights,
Our museums.
our freedom of speech. We have legal students in the United States who legally, peacefully protested, who are getting swiped up and taken to prison. There's a woman who was taken off the street for having an opinion in her school newspaper. If we don't stand up for all people in America, we don't stand up for any people in America. Because either everyone deserves freedom of speech or nobody does. Because if they can pluck a person off the street for voicing their opinion, they can pluck anyone off the street for voicing an opinion. It is a complete disrespect for our Constitution and the antithesis of what it means to be an American. It is absolutely unacceptable. And that is why we stand here today, holding our signs, hands off of our allies, hands off of our indigenous land and government agencies. I support people loving whoever they want to love. I support being kind to our neighbors, to our friends. I support kindness, honesty, integrity, respect, and helping those who are less fortunate, helping a friend in need. I just made a Facebook post asking, how can you be Christian and support this man who is a felon, sex offender, who constantly lies? I genuinely will never understand how you can say you're Christian and have strong morals and family values and support such a disgusting human being. I will never understand. And that is why we're here today.
Holy shit, you know it's bad when the introverts are out here marching.
You understand me. So we've got like a whole parade of people going around the park with their signs. I tried to get some of it with my drone, but this is cool. I'm gonna join the people.
Hands off! Hands off!
Woo!
Hands off! Hands off! Hands off! Hands off! Hands off! Hands off!
Something I was very happy to see today is there were a lot of Republicans who are putting their country over their party and standing up against the Trump regime. Thank you to the Republicans who are standing on the right side of history. We need more of you out there standing up for America, our values, and our Constitution.
Tesla and everyone was laughing. Get it, girl, get it. That is bravery. I love it. Everyone cheered. Everyone cheered. Yeah, this is a really good vibe, really positive vibe. There was one MAGA Karen, and that's about it. That's all you can really ask for. Everyone's really been really nice. A few people have approached me wondering what news station I'm with, because I've been flying my drone and stuff. And some people are like skeptical, like, oh, we're on camera. And I'm like, I'm on your team. Don't worry about it. I guess I probably should have brought a sign. Next time, I just wanted to check it out, feel it out, see how safe I felt. Like, I've never been to a protest. And this is a smaller one, obviously. This is St. George. It's not like the big protests at the Capitol buildings and stuff like that. Maybe I'll go to one of those as time goes on, but woo! Just a good positive energy. I like it. Met some sweet people, and hell yeah, America. That pretty much sums it up. Thank you.
So the way I found out about this rally is a family member of mine told me about indivisible.org. So if you want to get involved and stand together to protect our country, our Constitution, and our liberties, we would be happy to have you. So proud of everyone who showed up for our country. It's estimated over 3 million people showed up in the hands-off rallies in all 50 states in America. Not only that, but we had support overseas. So thank you everyone for standing together on the right side of history.